Please remain standing for the invocations led by Elder Florence Painter, followed by Reverend Tanis Kalisnik.
Bonjour. Zorskobinashikwe, Disnikasmako, the Nemagan. Amigwach, Bemikit, gab me in Abyssining, Nongum, Jib me Wabmangit, Pejik, me Kitchijit Chiganand, Nongum Gagishigung. I want to acknowledge the reason why we're here, and I'm happy that we're here to celebrate the accomplishment of one special person that is presented here today. I say thank you for the opportunity to do the invocation, and I will do it in my language. Agizamanidu. Zoskabineshi Gwendis Nikas Makondemagan. And Mishomis, Miwatskip meaning, Unjibi Madison, Miwatskip meaning. Gab me Navishinang Nongam Gagish, Gong Jib me Obangit, away, Eque, O Don Jaga Making, Jib me, Kachit Nang, Yagab me Spangidanik, Kikinam again. And Mishomis, Bimiga Guadea, Jib me Wijet, Mionjanagaja. Miwijish nam miwatskip meaning humagap me ni boyang kakina miob mangit however me kichichiganin nongum gagishigong misho miss mimiga guade agan sondani mangam bimije kagigi dotamo chani bindosanik how ni gani meaning iswasa jiji nigot jiwi jat ke winge we janish naven. And Mishno, Miss Hamiwatskip Migu, Hamiwatchow.
It is wonderful that today the University of Winnipeg community has the opportunity to celebrate and honor your work. I would like to offer these words of blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may our Creator God hold you in the palm of her hand. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. It is now my pleasure to invite forward Dr. Annette Trimby, President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Winnipeg.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this very special convocation. I welcome you to the University of Winnipeg, located on Treaty 1 land in the heart of the Métis Nation. I always begin with this acknowledgement to recognize the land we live on, our respect of its history, and our commitment to embrace and educate all who join us in this special place. It is my pleasure to preside over today's ceremony. Distinguished guests and friends of the University of Winnipeg, I have the honor to declare this 112th convocation of the University of Winnipeg a special convocation ceremony in honor of Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith. We are pleased to be joined this afternoon by a number of distinguished platform guests, which I will introduce to you. I ask that each person stand briefly as I call his or her name and request that you hold your applause until I have finished the introductions. In the back row, Dr. Jacqueline McLeod Rogers, Acting Associate Dean of Arts, Gabrielle Prefontaine, Dean of Library, Dr. Hugh Grant, Acting Dean of Business and Economics, Dr. Doug Goltz, Acting Dean of Science, Dr. Catherine Taylor, Acting Dean of Arts, Chris Miniker, Senior Executive Officer, Dr. Mavis Reimer, Dean of Graduate Studies, Dr. Kenneth McCluskey, Dean of Education, Dr. Jan Stewart, Acting Dean of the Gupta Faculty of Kinesiology, and Dr. John Anchen, Associate Dean of Education. And in the front row, Reverend Tanis Kalisnik, Student Life Academic Advisor, Colin Russell, Registrar, Brian Daly, University of Winnipeg Foundation President and CEO, Mike Emsley, Vice President, Finance and Administration, Eric Johnstone, Board of Regents, past and incoming Board Chair, Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith, Honorary Doctorate of Laws candidate, Dr. Jamie Cedro, Acting Indigenous Academic Lead and Acting Director of the Masters in Development Practice Program, Jarita Greyeyes, Director, Community Learning and Engagement, Kevin Lamoureux, National Education Lead, National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, Elder Florence Painter, and Allison Cox, Indigenous Knowledge Keeper. Please join me in thanking our platform party. You may have noticed I refer to many of them as acting. Our provost is away, but if he were here, I would have told him that he needs to quit running a drama department and make some things permanent. Anyways. We are also joined by members of our Board of Regents, nominators of our honorary degree candidate, faculty, staff, administration, students, alumni, and members of our community who are here to share in this celebration and who play essential roles in making this university the truly extraordinary and vibrant place that it is. I ask you to join me in thanking them as well. The University of Winnipeg has a long history of holding special convocation ceremonies, and we use these ceremonies to honor extraordinary individuals, those who have made outstanding contributions to their field of study, profession, or to society at large. Past recipients honored through special convocation have included the former President of Ukraine, Viktor Yushchenko, former President of Peru, Alejandro Toledo, retired General Romeo Dallaire, human rights advocate Dr. Dennis Mukwege, singer Chantal Kraviesek from Winnipeg, and most recently, primatologist Dr. Jane Goodall. Today, we honor Linda Tuhiwai Smith with an Honorary Doctor of Laws. An honorary degree is the highest academic status that can be bestowed on any individual. Those who receive an honorary degree demonstrate dedication and excellence in their field of work and have been nominated for consideration of this title. It is now my pleasure to call upon Dr. Jamie Cedro, Acting Indigenous Academic Lead and Acting Director of the Masters in Development Practice, who will introduce our esteemed guest, Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith. So Dr. Smith and Dr. Cedro, would you please come forward?
Madam President and Vice Chancellor, I have the honor to present Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith to receive an Honorary Doctorate of Laws. Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith of New Zealand is an internationally accomplished scholar and researcher. She has influenced the field of Maori education and health for many years. Her groundbreaking work, Decolonizing Methodologies Research and Indigenous People, first published in 1998, remains an international bestseller, and many of my students who I see here have read it. It has global reach and has been translated into Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Italian, and Bahasa Indonesian. This seminal work examines the relationship between dominant institutional research protocols and Indigenous knowledge systems. It has led to many other authors publishing books that guide students, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, today and into the future. Linda is widely published in numerous journals and books, and she continues to inspire Indigenous thinkers. She encourages Indigenous scholars to use our own epistemologies and to recognize and relearn that Indigenous peoples need to lead research based on their own traditional ways of inquiry. She is currently Professor of Maori and Indigenous Studies at the University of Waikato in New Zealand. She has held several prestigious positions, including, there's a long list, co-director of the Maori Center of Research Excellence, the Pro-Vice Chancellor Maori, and Dean of the School of Maori and Pacific Development at the University of Waikato. Linda has received many awards for her research excellence and contributions to Maori education, including, in 2013, she was honored as a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit for her services in education to Maori people. She made a Fellow of the Royal Society of New Zealand in 2016, and in 2017, she received the Prime Minister's Award for Lifetime Achievement in Education. With her colleague and husband, Professor Graham Smith, she co-developed the first undergraduate and graduate courses on Maori education and Indigenous education to be taught at a New Zealand institution. Linda provides an invaluable reference point for any institution like the University of Winnipeg who is committed to indigenizing its spaces and approaches to scholarship, and she has called out clearly for academic institutions to recognize that Indigenous knowledges should not be subordinate to dominant scholarly knowledges, but rather must be respected as parallel ways of knowing. Dr. Trimby, I request that you confer upon Linda Tuhiwai Smith the degree of Honorary Doctor of Laws for pioneering work and accomplishments and her tireless championing of Indigenous research and scholarship.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Winnipeg, I admit you, Linda Tuhiwai Smith, to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges thereto pertaining. She's been practicing. It is now my great pleasure to call upon our newest honorary doctorate to address our guest, Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith.
In my own language, tēnā koutou katoa, greetings. I would like to acknowledge the land I'm on, which is Treaty 1 land and land of the Métis Nation. I'd like to acknowledge the Anishinaabe peoples, the Sinnabon, Cree, Dakota, Métis, and Oji Cree peoples. I want to thank the ancestors and all our relations for having brought me here safely and for this great honour. Thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge the President and Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Trimby, the Board of Regents, faculty of the university, and students. I'm honoured and humbled to receive this. Apparently, people are surprised it's my first honorary doctorate, and where else should I have it but at the University of Winnipeg? Like all of us, our achievements are never really an individual's work on their own, and I do need to acknowledge the support of my family, my extended family, the different tribes that I come from, my colleagues both in New Zealand and around the world, who've really taken what I developed and made it something greater than what I could achieve on my own. When I set out to study at a university, I did want to change the world. I did want to make it a better place for my own people, and if that worked for other Indigenous peoples, then for all of us together. But, you know, it's not sexy to really study research methods. Have you ever looked on the shelves of where the research methods books are housed? How large and technical and rather dull they all are. And when I wrote Decolonising Methodologies, I didn't really write it as a book that would sit on the shelf alongside, you know, great tomes on research methods. I often tell a story of trying to find work that spoke to me, that was about the Indigenous experience in bookshops. And I travelled through many places, Canada, United States, Australia, looking for these books. If I found them, they were often on the bottom shelf, tucked away in the corner. There might have been 3 or 4 shabby-looking volumes. And my sort of quiet determination, if you like, was that I really wanted to put those books to the top shelf. So that's what I would do. I'd go into a bookshop and I'd get all the Indigenous books, all 3 of them, and I'd push the other books on the top away and I'd situate them there. And then I thought one day I want to have a book up there that's like those 3 books. So it has been really great to see the development of Indigenous scholarship and to see the work of colleagues and new generations of Indigenous colleagues coming through the academic world and really writing from Indigenous knowledge perspectives. I guess what makes my work now old-fashioned in a sense is that was not how I could write in the context when I started my work. I was trained in a traditional university with white male academics as my supervisors, having to read what white male academics wrote about my people, and trying to find those little spaces that were not only safe to raise issues that were about Indigenous scholarship, but that I could build on to try and create and speak to a different reality and a different sense of what it meant to Indigenous, to be Indigenous. So when I set out as a postgraduate student, I was actually studying health. And for those of you who work in the health area, you will know that methods are greatly contested in health, as are ethics. And the more I read, the more intrigued I became, and the more outraged I became about the treatment of Indigenous peoples, about Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous languages, Indigenous cultures, and the political positions within nation states that Indigenous peoples occupied. And I did want to unsettle the status quo and find a different pathway. It meant I wrote probably one of the largest PhD theses that my university accepted, surpassed only by my husband's one, which was probably 10,000 words longer, because it was the first time that a PhD written from an explicit Indigenous position was presented at my university. I'm pleased to say that it is now normal in New Zealand for our students to write from that position and to begin to develop a scholarship that others can read and build on. You might ask why focus on academic spaces to do this work when our peoples have real urgent needs and face real urgent crises in our communities, that our peoples face inequitable outcomes in health and education. They're suffering, they're poor, they're traumatized, they're excluded. Why, focus then on the world of knowledge? Well, I think the world of knowledge is one of those sites where we have to struggle for the legitimacy of our very existence. And while I don't recommend it as a site that all of our people should be in struggling, I do think some of us need to be there. Some of us need to contest the way knowledge is produced, the way knowledge is legitimated, the way knowledge becomes dominant, and the way knowledge is then reproduced in society. And I hope with the work of the next generations of Indigenous scholars that they will pay attention to the subtle debates and not so subtle debates that go on in the world of knowledge. I don't see it as an abstract world. I see it as a genuine struggle over what counts as knowing and being in our society. So if I could just turn to my colleagues in the university, and to those of you who are students and those of you from the community. What you do here influences what I can do in my context. And I hope that what I do in my context influences what happens here. We share many things, not just our colonial history and our history of settlement of this land, but we share responsibility for the earth, for Mother Earth. We share responsibility for the future of peoples and for those who've been marginalised, for those who are no longer present to give witness to the cultures that once existed, to the languages that once were spoken, to the songs that were once sung, to the stories that were once told. I believe we all have a responsibility to retrieve those and to bring them back and make us richer as human beings. Thank you very much for this honour, and thank you all for coming. All our relations.
It is a sincere privilege for me to welcome you, Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith, into the University of Winnipeg family. I'm sure you haven't met a president yet that doesn't talk about how special their school is, but ours really is special. And we're so happy that we are the university that is your first honorary doctorate. Your quiet determination, your very, very long thesis. I'm looking at my husband. We didn't compete for the length of our PhD thesis, but I do recall taking a computer science class with him, and my program was about 8 sentences long, and his was about 300. And I think I did some simple math, but you talk about, quiet determination and the new normal, and I do want to acknowledge just how much of an impact you have had on scholars in your country and across the world, and how a mere 12, 15, 20 hours away, we are really all connected. We are a university that I think can trace some of our accomplishments directly back to your work. We were fortunate to have a group of students and faculty that really believed that the University of Winnipeg should ensure that every student who came here and graduated had at least some basic knowledge of where we are, our place, our history, and they have to take at least one course offering some Indigenous perspectives. So you really were a pioneer and an early champion in understanding the deep value inherent in Indigenous knowledge and perspectives. Our Indigenous course requirement means that many, many more students are learning about our Canada and the contemporary issues that we share. One of our primary roles as a university is to create meaningful opportunities to engage and support more Indigenous scholarship and research. couldn't agree with you more that we need more Indigenous students in our graduate programs and our PhD programs on our faculties, because I do think it is important to have your work on our top shelf. I'm going to go look at my bookshelves and make sure I've properly sorted things. So I do want to acknowledge some of the incredible people we have here and some of the things we have been doing. So just last month, Dr. Jamie Cedro, with others, we had our first Indigenous 3-minute thesis presentation. We had 9 visiting PhD students from the Pueblo Nation from Arizona State University, and the depth and breadth of research topics was very interesting and inspiring. And the way those students used their 3 minutes was quite different than some other 3-minute thesis competitions I've watched. I left feeling I knew each and every one of those students. I knew what they valued. They were looking at things like traditional knowledge as it relates to prenatal care, exploring place-based Indigenous education that reconnects students with the land. We just had our climate atlas launch 2 days ago. An elder was there, and he spoke about the need to reconnect with our weather. And I thought that was an interesting take on reconnecting with the land. We hide inside and we're not paying attention to what's going on. They're looking at economic self-determination for First Nations communities. And I'm proud to say that there are others, in addition to Jamie Cedro, that are thinking ahead, and Mavis Reimer is somewhere behind me, and we're going to have this year a second Indigenous Summer Scholars Program. We piloted it last year, and it connects senior undergraduate students, potential master's candidates with faculty members, and they work on research, and they learn about graduate school, they learn how to apply, they learn how to get ready, they get some research experience, and the types of projects they are doing are going to have impact. For example, one of them was looking at adequate water and sanitation facilities on First Nations reserves. Some of them were helping our climate change atlas folks, and one of my distant relatives was looking at Indigenous artists and cartoonists, looking at comics and graphic narratives to represent Indigenous life. And what is really special about this program is the one-on-one mentorship our students receive and the encouragement to keep pursuing their academic careers. We know that students succeed when they have role models and mentors. And Linda, that is you. You are an inspiring role model who gives our faculty, staff, and students hope and vision. I'm going to ask Sharita and Jamie to come forward in just a minute as we present you with the gift of appreciation. But first, I want to share the teaching of the Star Blanket. Across many Indigenous nations, the foundational understanding is that we are all related. This understanding includes our relationships to all beings everywhere and all things from the earth to the sky and beyond. We are beings that come from the stars, and our relationship extends to this dimension. The teaching and gifts of healing from the Star Blanket extend from this understanding. From the Ojibwe comes the story of a baby with an incurable illness. Her family took her to a medicine woman who offered the teaching to make a star blanket and wrap the little one in it. It was the Star people who would do the healing. After 4 days of ceremony, the baby was unwrapped. From the Dakota come the teaching that the blanket represents the star that we come from. To be wrapped in the blanket reconnects us to our original home and our place of safety. From the Cree comes a similar teaching, though the points of the stars are different. Today, the star blanket is often used as a gift of honor and recognition of relationships. Sharita and Jamie, please come forward, and Dr. Smith as well. They've been practicing, but... You may have noticed that along with her honorary doctorate hood, Dr. Smith was presented a sash by Dr. Cedro today. This custom sash was created by Destiny Seymour. Some of you know Destiny, right? I think on that side? Yes. An Anishinaabe interior designer who handmade the sashes inspired by the repeated and delicate pattern stamping found on local Indigenous pottery with colors that reflect the University of Winnipeg. Starting this spring, these sashes will be offered to all of our Indigenous graduates at Convocation, and Dr. Smith, you are the first to receive one today. So thank you to Destiny for this beautiful design. And I'm looking at some of our former graduates, and Vanessa, there's one for you too, for sure. So before we adjourn, we would also like to express our thanks to Chief Marshal Dr. Danny Blair, pianist and Reverend Tanis Kalisnik, Elder Florence Painter, jingle dress dancers Angeline Nelson and Bonnie Rock Thunder, sign language interpreters Lacey Kaler and Jen Horvath, and our MC Colin Russell. And of course, thank you to our honoree, Dr. Linda Tuhiwai Smith, for your leadership and committing your talents and vocations to the betterment of our world. You are a great role model to all of us. We are proud to have you as part of the university community. You look pretty comfortable in that blanket. And finally, to all of you, our guests, for joining us on this wonderful occasion. I would request that after the singing of the honor song and our national anthem, you remain in your places until the platform party have left. Please rise for an honor song by Allison Cox, followed by the national anthem led by our registrar, Mr. Colin Russell.
There you go. Okay. I was just going to speak to the song so you would understand the meaning. The song is called a rainbow song. And in our understanding, the rainbow connects the Indigenous peoples from New Zealand to the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. And that we had a prophecy that one day our people would meet again, and that this knowledge would be a bridge of understanding, of wisdom, of our culture, of that connection again. So this is the song that speaks to that bridge, and we know it as the Rainbow Bridge.
hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Et ta valeur, deux fois trempée, protégera nos foyers.